knowing that the world will constantly scare you and saying, you know what, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to do that thing that makes me uncomfortable and anxious, but I know that it is for something bigger than me.
Hey, it's Marie Forleo, and welcome to another episode of Marie TV and the Marie Forleo podcast. Now, look, if you're somebody who gets held back by fear, you want to do things, you want to say things, but you're completely afraid of what might happen if you actually do, today's show is going to change your life. Luvvie Ajayi-Jones is a New York Times best-selling author, speaker, and podcaster who thrives at the intersection of comedy, media, and justice. She's the co-creator of the hashtag #ShareTheMicNow global movement and host of the podcast Professional Troublemaker. Her debut book, I'm Judging You, was a New York Times bestseller, and her new book, Professional Troublemaker, The Fear Fighter Manual, is available now. Luvvie! Oh my goodness! Okay, so before we even get into it, everybody, I have to tell you, the other night I'm reading Luvvie's book and I literally had to stop reading it, and I picked up my phone and I started texting her with a lot of expletives because that's who I am and that's what I do. Like this book, okay, my friend, I have to tell you, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second, I have a weird spidey sense about me, a little bit of intuition. I've done this a few times in the past. I got so many chills on this book. I am predicting such huge things for you, your career, but also the people who get the benefit of reading your words. Like, you have taken it to such a new level. I've read your first book. I love you. I adore you. I respect you. And as I shared in my text, you went to a whole new place in this. And so I just have to bow down and just let you know.
Listen, that text message made my heart smile. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, to get that reflected back to me is so meaningful in such a big way. Because, sometimes you create something, you don't know if it, it's good. But then when somebody is like, no, let me tell you how good. And I knew you were serious because you cussed in it. And I was like, yes.
I have so many underlines. We could have this conversation, but I also, like you, I'm a big marketer and I don't shy away from that. I want people to get the damn book. So we're going to talk about some pieces, but we're going to leave a lot out because you need to read it yourself and get those feelings and those insights for you. So let's start off just at the top. What inspired you to write this one? Why did you want to put this out after I'm Judging You?
Yeah, when I was trying to figure out, like, what is my second book going to be about? I think I knew I didn't necessarily want to write a sequel to I'm Judging You. Like, I'm not writing I'm Judging You 2. I'm still judging you, right? But I still am judging us. But I sat on it for a bit, and I was just like, I don't know what book 2 is going to be, but I think I'm going to get the idea, and it's going to be clear when I get it. And I remember I was on a flight to Paris for a speaking engagement when I got this idea. And the line that came to my head was, I come from a long line of professional troublemakers. My grandmother was one. Like, it came to me when I was boarding my flight, and I literally took a pad out and I wrote it down. I was like, this is my book. But it was after a bit of trying to figure out what is the thing that I want to say to people in the next thing that I put, the next 80,000 words. And it was right in front of me. You know what happens, like, when we doubt what's right in front of us because it's too easy? Because we were like, that can't be it.
Yes.
We spend a lot of time doing that. And I realized I do that all the time. What was right in front of me this whole time was my TED Talk. So I have a TED Talk that's called Getting Comfortable Being Uncomfortable that went viral. It's had 5 million views at this point, over 5 million views. I said no to the TED Talk twice because I didn't think I was ready for it. When Pat Mitchell invited me to do this talk, I was like, no, I'm too busy. It was right after book 1 came out. It was like 6 months after book 1 came out. And I was like, I'm still doing like a lot of speaking. TED takes a lot of attention. I'm not ready for that. I don't have time to even get coached for that. And I turned Pat down once. Then I turned her down again when she's like, oh, we're going to do a panel at TED with a lot of your friends like Glennon Doyle. And you should come on the panel. And I was like, I'm not going to have time because I'm on a 10-city tour with Glennon. But I also had extra speaking engagements on top of that. So I said no again to Pat Mitchell. And 3 weeks before TED, I was like, oh snap, I can go for the first day. I'm going to go cheer on my friends. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be there for a day. I'm going to say hi to my friends. I'm going to be in the audience clapping for them. So I emailed Pat Mitchell and I said, can I just get a day pass to TED? And Pat replied back and said, if you can come to TED, I want you to speak. And I was like, Pat, that's actually nuts. We're 3 weeks out from TED. I can't speak at TED. She was like, no, like if you're going to be able to be there, even if it's for a day, I want you to speak. And I was about to turn Pat Mitchell down for a third time. And I called one of my friends, Unique. And I said, I've been asked to do this TED Talk. I've already turned it down twice. She's asking me for a third time. And this time, she's asking me 3 weeks before TED. You know, everybody else who's speaking has had 4 months to prepare. They've had coaches. And Unique said, well, everybody's not you. All the things that you've been doing have prepared you for this moment. So I need you to get off my phone and go write your talk and kill it. And that's why I said yes to the TED Talk that changed my life after saying no to it twice. And I realized, like, I get messages every day from people all over the world who said, I watched your TED Talk. I saw you and you gave me the courage to do something that felt bigger than me. You gave me the courage to say yes to something that I wouldn't have. And my own journey to that TED Talk was exactly what that was. I had said no to a yes opportunity. So when I had that idea of professional troublemaker, the first words of my TED Talk were, I am a professional troublemaker. And just the message of, we spend a lot of time doubting ourselves, doubting what's possible for us, being afraid of who we are, all our bigness, all our potential. And we usually operate from a place of fear. I operated from a place of fear when it came to that TED Talk. I talked about it in the TED Talk. And my whole life, my journey has been about the moments when I have had the courage, the audacity to say yes to what scared me. So when I felt that conviction, I was like, that's what I need to write my book about. That's what I need to tell people about. My story, my grandmother's story, how life is so scary and will not stop being scary. But how do we push past it to build the life of our dreams, or the life that we didn't even think to dream about? And that's why I wrote Professional Troublemaker, the Fear Fighter Manual.
It's so good. You know, there's so much that I relate to you on. First of all, your stories about your grandmother are incredible. This year, I lost my grandmother. She's a firecracker. She was she is causing trouble in heaven absolutely right now. Yes. Causing ruckus, right?
Her and my grandmother probably besties.
Yes, I'm telling you, like, can't tell her nothing. I'll tell you a very quick story. She, just a rebel, she was down in Florida before she passed, and she got to the point where, she should not be operating motor vehicles. But the public bus would take her to the grocery store, and they would say, oh, would you like to get on one of those little buggies or whatever, and you can go drive around. And every single time, Lovey, she would get on the little, like, Jazzy, and she would drive straight into the whole display of cans and knock it over. She's like, they knew I was going to do it. They still let me. And it's just like, but it was such a thrill to see everybody go. It's like, yes. What are you doing? Professional troublemaker. So for those of us, and I want to say, I'm going to be reading you a lot of your brilliant words throughout this conversation because I have so many highlights and I need to just drop them and let you expound on the gems that you've dropped on us in this book because it's just that good. I literally, again, I wanted to throw this book against the wall in the best way. Like, do you know how when something's so good and you're like, I need to squeeze it. I want the eyeballs to pop out. Like, I want to wrestle with it. I want to slap it because it's that good. Like, that's how I feel about your book. So, and I think you get what I mean by that.
I do.
You wrote, it's a life of, I might be afraid, but I won't let it stop me. Professional troublemakers recognize that the fear is real and that it's an everlasting hater, but it must be tackled. I love that. Yes. So can you define professional troublemaker for us? And for anyone that might be wondering, how does that differ from just like a garden variety shit stirrer? Do you know what I mean? From just being like, oh, I'm just going to cause some ruckus.
A professional troublemaker is a disruptor and a change maker for the greater good. They're not just the people who are throwing bombs in a room. They're not just the people who are making people uncomfortable for the sake of it, right? They're not just the people who are just like, I'm just going to annoy somebody today. They're the people who speak truth, who are almost unable to bow in a world that's constantly asking for it, and who feel deeply passionate about making sure that they make this world better than they found it. And they will do it in the way that they know how. And usually it is with the truth. It is with challenging people and systems and ideas that are not okay. It is with knowing that the world will constantly scare you and saying, you know what, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to do that thing that makes me uncomfortable and anxious, but I know that it is for something bigger than me. So yeah, they're not the haters. They're not just contrarians. They're not just like, shit starters. And they are people who feel this deep sense of obligation to the people around them, to the world that they live in, and are like, sometimes I might have to put myself on the line, but I'm going to do it because it's worth it for justice.
Yes. I love how much emphasis in the beginning of the book you put on the power of knowing and being our fullest selves. And I'll be honest with you, so many times, Lovey, I get interviewed, people like, how are you so confident? And I'm like, A, I'm not. B, I still struggle sometimes with going like, God, am I being too much? Am I being too much? Am I overpowering? So there's so much to talk about. You're right. To know who we are is to insist on knowing we are not what others put on us. We are not the names people call us. We are not our worst moments. Don't let people who can't even spell your name right tell you who you are. That one had me cackling because I can't tell you how many times Maria, I'm like, really? Like even folks who are paying me very good money to teach them things, are calling me Maria. Anyway, I would love if you could tell us about Oriki. Did I pronounce that right?
Oriki.
Yeah, Oriki. Great. And the power of being crystal clear on who we are and that tradition behind that.
Yes. So Oriki is a Yoruba tradition where it is basically a mantra that connects you back to your past, your ancestors, that reminds you of who you are. It's sang in celebrations that you have, birthdays, weddings, because Nigerians love to party Tuesday just because they feel like it. You talk to the right person, they might just drop your Oriki on you real quick for no reason. And it's really important because to the point of when I've also been asked that. I remember getting off a stage one day when I keynoted a conference and somebody walks up to me and was like, how are you so self-assured? Because they were like, you have this grounded energy. And I was just like, I don't know. I didn't know how to answer it then. I didn't know how to answer them then, but now I know because I'm very clear who I am. And a lot of times people will shake us and move us away from who we are or call us something and we'll internalize that and say, yeah, you're right. I am this thing. But I need us to define who we are. And that's what Oriki does for you in advance. Like it will tell you, remember who your parents are, remember where you come from, remember what you hold dear. And it was important for me to put that in the beginning of the book because for us to exist in this world, when we don't know who we are, when we're not grounded in who we are, we're in constant state of flux. We're constantly being punished because, humans can be trash, right?
Yes.
One thing humans are really amazing at is othering each other. We're so good at that. We're so good at making somebody else feel bad. We're so good at insulting each other and being like, you're not good enough. So it is our jobs and our bodies to insist on who we are, even when somebody's calling us something opposite. And that is for me is my guiding light, my compass. In my worst moments, that is my guiding light. This is who I am. I am clear about it. Doesn't matter what somebody says about me. I am still this person. And adults, we don't realize that we never got the practice of standing in who we are. So when another adult sees you and says, wow, you're so confident, it's like, am I not supposed to be? It's because so many people aren't. It's because we've been beat up by the world. We've been told we're not good enough. We've been told that we're stupid or we're too fat or we're too skinny or we're too this thing. And next thing you know, you're kind of lost. You're like, okay, I guess I am that. So knowing who you are prevents you from being told who you are by random people. People who can't spell your name right. People who just would not be in the same room as you. People who you would not break bread with. So, yeah.
I love to, because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I did a version of what you teach us all to do in the book, which I love that you have that formula. right before I came out with Everything is Figure Outable and I decided to do this Beyonce book tour launch, I was like, okay, I've never put on a concert before and I got to launch a book and I'm totally like out of shape cardio wise. I literally, Lovey, I wrote myself this thing on my phone and would look at it every day. And I was like, you are the breaker of chains. Like it was hilarious, but it works. And I just want to thank you for putting that, because not only is it fun as hell, but we need to do that. And you're 100% right. No one ever teaches us this. And so you feel like a ping pong ball around the world. And I feel like, with social, especially these past years, and you and I, we're similar in this way. It's like we've been on the internet a long time. Like when I started my business in 1999, which crazy, right? It's like we didn't have any social media at all. And so now it's this constant potential to compare yourself or to hear feedback. And if you aren't grounded in who you are 100% right. Man, it can get real easy to get lost.
Yes.
Like it's crazy, right? Like you're like, God, am I this? Am I that? It's like, no. So I want to talk about too muchness. You write, can you imagine if someone walked up to you and to your face said, I need you to be less? You'd clutch your pearls and be offended. But that is what they're saying when they say you're too much. They're just saying it in a less accusing and more shaming manner, so you take it to heart. Any place that demands you to shrink is a place that will suffocate your spirit and leave you gasping for air.
Yeah.
Have you been told you're too much most of your life?
Absolutely. I show up as who I am no matter what room I'm in. And even if I'm not told to my face, I've definitely been told in different ways, right? People won't necessarily say you're too much. They'll just say it in different ways. It might be how they look at you. It might be them reporting you to HR after you make a statement in a meeting. It might be them saying, you know what, just be quiet. So there's different ways that people can tell you that you are too much. And in my life, I found that usually the thing that is too much about me is typically my superpower. Right? Like the thing that people want you to quell, the thing that they want you to be less of is typically the thing that you are gifted at. So when I was growing up, I got in trouble for my mouth. Like I didn't get in trouble for climbing trees. I got in trouble because I would be saying something to somebody about what I didn't like that they did or what wasn't fair. And I'm just like, that same thing that got me in trouble is what now allows me to take a stage and be on a TED Talk stage and get 5 million views. That same voice, that same mouth, that same boldness is what now allows me to make a living that I would have never thought about. So when we're accused of being too much, I'm always like, a lot of it is not even our business. A lot of it has nothing to do with us or what we did. A lot of it is other people projecting themselves on us or where they failed on us. So our jobs is to recognize those moments, figure out what to internalize, what to receive as constructive feedback, and move forward.
Yeah, you know what? I actually want to dig into that a little bit deeper because I loved that you broke it down in the book, because people will ask, and I think it's a fair question. Taking the other side of the coin, if folks right now are listening or watching and they're wondering, okay, Lovey, but what if, right? What if I am acting a fool in some kind of way? What if I am being a particular way that they're rightfully calling me out for being a little too much or whatever it is? How can we distinguish whether or not something is valid or, as you call it, pure compost and trash?
Sentient sewage. You have to ask yourself a series of questions about who is bringing this to you and how. What is their motivation? I break it down more in the book, but it's like the person who's bringing this to you matters, but also keeping in mind that sometimes they actually will be people who care about you. And that's when it usually will cut through the most. If it's like your mom says it to you or somebody that's related to you says it to you, but you also have to figure out what they're carrying that made them bring that to you. And again, maybe you are too loud in the library. Yes. But are you being too loud by raising an objection about an idea that happened in a room that you thought the idea was thoughtless, right? Are you being too loud in a moment when you're saying, hey, don't say this joke about this person? It's things you have to kind of run through your own filter.
Yes.
to give credence to or not. Because again, I think we spend a lot of time giving credence to a lot of people's ideas about us. So much time. Without also now checking ourselves and being like, but do I feel bad about what I did that caused them to give me this criticism?
Yes. And I have the 3 questions written down just for anyone to walk themselves through if they're like, I really want to take a deeper look at this objectively. You have 1, is this hindering my personal growth? 2, is this harming someone else? And 3, is this critique coming from someone who loves and respects me? And of course, you go deep into each of those questions and how to kind of parse through that. But I wanted to just at least top level outline that because I think it's so incredibly valuable. In my life, I often tell people this, especially when they ask me about criticism. And this is the truth up until now. I have never received a piece of hurtful criticism from anyone that I love and respect, anyone who I admire their work, anyone who I really appreciate who they are, how they carry themselves in the world, has never slung a piece of like just harsh, hurtful, demeaning criticism my way. Correct. Even if people have an opinion to share or they're like, hey, I just wanted to share this with you, something for you to consider, it never comes through with you know what I mean, with a knife. Not with a knife's edge.
That's a great point. That is actually a really good point. It doesn't mean that people who love and respect you won't bring great criticisms to you. It is the how that they will bring it. They're not coming to cut off your head. They're coming to be like, I am saying this because I'm expecting you to grow from it. They're not coming to be like, I want you to be in the fetal position after I walk away from you.
Yes.
Right? Like, they're not going to do that. And people who love you will not do that. And if it makes you want to be in a fetal position, that's something you also have to figure out, like, why am I taking this so bad? But to your point in that, the how, oh my God, like your friends can check you. Your family can check you, but they're not going to do it in a way that breaks your spirit.
That's right. And that's a very big difference. And I think that it's so important. And it's one of the best things about getting older. Like, you know, stuff that I used to just think was, you know, oh gosh, this is just how people act, you know, in your late teens or early 20s. And then you just start maturing and you're like, there's a whole different way to be. There's a whole different way to be.
Because I mean, in our 20s, we were all trash. 100%.
It's
a rite of passage to be trash in your 20s. It is a lifetime rite of passage. That is the decade where you can be a raving dumbass because you're finally an adult, even though you're not really one, right? You're not going to high school. There's nobody who's on your back that's like, have you completed this thing? The 20s is your first real decade of autonomy. So that decade exists for you to mess up in multiple ways. So you have stories to tell in your 30s. And you get to look back and be like, thank God for growth. Thank God for it because
oh my goodness. Yes. No, the fact that I even survived, it's kind of amazing. You know, one of the other things that, again, so many times there's laugh out loud moments in your book, but I just love how much you love and appreciate, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but you're like, I'm petty. And you will go there for a second and then you're like, but I'm mature now, I'm going to pull it back. And then you're like, but I need to sprinkle a little bit in. You had me laughing so hard. And it was so endearing. And I love you so much for it because, you know, people will sometimes ask, they'll be like, but Marie, you're always so positive. I'm like, I don't post everything I think on the internet. And because I'm not... It was just like, I'm like, oh God, Lovey, I love you so much because it's just all there.
We got to be able to agree. Like, we're all petty. Like, that's the thing. Anybody who says they're not petty is not being truthful.
They're not telling the truth.
They're not telling the truth. Also, if you can't be petty, what can you be? Like, petty is a piece that's necessary. Because sometimes people do things that you just have to side-eye them over or be like, come on. And sometimes you realize you're being the person who needs to be side-eyed. And one thing I am, to thine own self be true. I know myself above all else. I'll tell you all my flaws first because I am very clear what they are. And being petty, I'm not going to stop being petty. Let's also be clear. Like...
You kept saying, Jesus isn't done with me yet. And I'm like, I love you.
Yeah, I'm a working. I never take myself too seriously, even as I'm writing this book. And I'm like, listen, I'm a hot mess. I am a hot mess who's learning a lot. And I'm always sharing and learning out loud. Hot Mess Express. Ain't no shame about it because I will continue to be a hot mess. Don't expect me to be anything but a hot mess who happens to be growing, right? I am a growing hot mess, but I'm way better than I was in my 20s.
Yes.
That's why this book exists. Like, way better. I was a douche in my 20s. Like, and we have to be able to say that. We have to be able to be honest with each other, like, and with everybody out loud. Like, I think, and as public figures and people who are more visible,
yes,
that vulnerability is necessary because we happen to fall and trip in spite of and because of ourselves.
Yes.
On massive platforms. And our work has connected with millions of people and people see us in a certain way. But I'm always like, I don't belong on a pedestal. Do not put me there. I will disappoint you. I will fall off it. I will do something ridiculous because I'm a human who is petty in all her hot mess glory, have all my random baggage. I just happen to have hundreds of thousands of people watching me. So it doesn't mean I have everything figured out. It means I'm sharing what I have learned, but on the way there, do not make me a hero and icon because you will set me up for failure.
Correct. I remember, especially, I was so insecure when I started. By the way, I don't know who the hell I think I was. I think the inner spirit of me knew who I was, but like in my 20s, like as a 23-year-old life coach, who the hell's going to hire? Like, what was I thinking? I hadn't even lived life yet. I had piles of debt. Talk about hot mess. I had like failed at all the jobs I had. Anywho, I remember I distinctly would tell my clients, I said, look, I am no sage from the stage. I am a guide on the side. I am learning. I am growing. But I love what you said, this whole thing of like holding people up on pedestals. I'm like, y'all, even like with everything is figured out, people are like, oh, so you're saying you have everything figured out? I'm like, hell no. It's literally just a little phrase that helps me every day to figure stuff out.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like we are set up to fail. We are set up to fail because people do think, I never call myself an expert at anything. I am amazing at certain things. I know what my gifts are. I'm an amazing writer. I'm an amazing marketer. I'm an amazing storyteller. I will never call myself an expert because to call yourself an expert is to say you have no other room to grow. That you have reached the pinnacle of this thing. You've learned all there is to learn about this thing. I don't ever call myself an expert. And it's not because I'm being humble. It's because I am always committed to getting better at whatever that thing is. So when I call myself an expert, it means I can no longer get better at it. I'm no expert at anything. The only thing I'm an expert at is probably my side eye. I'm amazing. Like my side eye is pretty intense. So I am an expert at giving side eye. So you know what? I will say that one. Yeah.
You're like, I got no more room to grow there.
I have no more room to grow there.
So let's talk about, I think, one of your favorite things to draw in life, which is lines. Boundaries.
I love boundaries.
That was when I was reading. So I woke up, it was like 4:00 this morning. So by the way, okay, I have to tell you this little sidebar story. So before your book came in, Josh, my man, we're going to be together 18 years in like less than a month. He always calls me, he's like, you're being such a troublemaker right now. Like if I'm a little sassy or I'm a little, you know what I mean? Like poking him or just trying to get something started. And so he comes up the stairs in our house and I'm like tucked in bed and this is what he sees. He's like, do you really need that book? He's like, do you really need to learn how to be an even more professional troublemaker? And I was laughing so hard. I'm like, Josh, this is like the best book. My friend Lovey just wrote it. He's like, I don't know if I want you reading that.
I'm a bad influence on you. Yes.
It's like, I'm just going to have more trouble coming my way. I'm like the best trouble. I don't know where I was going. But anyway, boundaries. When I woke up at like 4 a.m. this morning, I went back to that chapter because I just wanted to just dig in and soak in it again. Let's talk about that because I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people have, especially in this world that we're still in. We're still in a pandemic. Yeah. People are at home. A lot of folks have their families around. They have kids. They might have extended family. And so they're looking to maybe create something new in their life, create a new habit. Yeah. They want to work on a book. They want to start a business, but they've kind of had a pattern where they're allowing all kinds of stuff to happen around them and they're afraid of stating a boundary so they can be new. What would you say to anyone listening right now who's like, Lovey, I need to hear your philosophy on boundaries?
I need everybody to state their boundaries. It is so important. I am a huge boundaries person. And I think I've always been a huge boundaries person. But I realize how important it is and how significant it is because I see how many people don't state their own boundaries. People have a hard time saying, here's what I expect from you. Here's how I want to be treated, because people don't want to be considered mean. But let me tell you something. You sit there angry because somebody did something that crossed your boundaries that you never expressed. You're setting other people up for failure. You're actually setting other people up to piss you off. So I'll even give people an example. Social media is where boundaries get trumped all the time. Boundaries get just crossed constantly on social because everybody thinks behind the computer screen, we have full access to everybody. We can do whatever we want. We can say whatever we want. And all we do is sit back and we just sulk silently. One of the biggest boundaries that everybody has on social that they do not express is they don't like being tagged in photos that they're not in. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes it. But nobody says, don't tag me in photos I'm not in. So when it happens with me and people will tag me because they want my audience to see something, some flyer, some new product that they're doing, their random thing that has nothing to do with me, they'll tag me. I usually will DM the person and say, hey, please don't tag me in something that has nothing to do with me. If it's my work, feel free to tag me. If it's my words, please tag me to that. But if it's your thing, don't tag me. I do it all the time. And people really get shocked by it. But each time that I do it, the response I usually get is, oh my God, sorry about that. I won't do that again. And then they don't do it again. But the times when I don't say it, that person ends up tagging me to 5 other photos. And then I get angry. So what I need people to understand is, one, it might be shocking to people when you actually express your boundaries. 2, most people will actually honor it once they know that's your boundary. And then 3, it makes my life easier and it will make your life easier to do that thing because usually you only have to state it to that person one time. If the person now heard your boundary and continues to cross it, at that point, you do what you can to keep them out. Block them, delete them, whatever that is. But we must start honoring our boundaries by speaking them out loud.
I also want to read your words here because, again, highlighters and underlines all the time, specifically about this. On page 185 of my galley, you wrote, "This is also why I'm not shy about deleting foolishness that people bring to my online space. My social media is a dictatorship, not a democracy. I block, report as spam, and mute as needed. I am not obligated to receive or consume debris that someone drops at my feet because, as you write, people will bring trash to you if you are a willing receptacle." And that, I was just like, book drop. I have talked about the fact, and I honestly, you've given me such confirmation because I was like, wow, I'm such an asshole. I'm actually not. Because there's been so many times I'm like, look, our social and my community, my places, I'm like, it's not a democracy. I, as a teacher and as a coach and as someone who's studied human psychology and adult learning for 20 years now, I'm very aware of the science. I'm also very aware experientially about how people learn. And as someone who is really committed to being a support for folks who are reaching for bigger dreams, who are trying to build a business or do something that is scaring the hell out of them, right? And they maybe have nobody else in their life that believes in them. Don't bring your trash to my place. It's like, no, you got the whole internet. You go do anything you want. But in this house, it's sacred. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't have a bad day. It doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? That we can't just be able to express our humanness, but leave the toxic, negative bullshit at the door. And otherwise, I will tell you, Lovey, I wrote about this and everything is figure outable. I was like, would you ever let someone come into your home, your sacred home, and just take down their pants and like take a dump in your living room and then walk out and let you clean it up and walk out? And then it's up to you to clean it up. It's like, you would not allow that to ever occur. So you do not need to allow it to occur in your digital spaces either.
That part. And I need us not to apologize for it, right?
Yes.
Like, don't apologize for having boundaries. I actually find it weird when people don't have boundaries. I'm always like, so you just let anybody call you? You just let anybody come into your house? Or you just let anybody so then what makes your relationship special? What actually lets the people who are in your circle, the people who are important to you, know that they exist in a different sphere? If everybody has access, then nobody has access, right? Because there's nothing sacred. So I'm always like, I find it weird when people don't have boundaries. And I also just want to encourage people that like, when you are the person with the boundaries and people make you feel bad about it, I hope this is confirmation that you're like, nope, I'm not the one that's wrong here. You, boundaryless person, are the ones who should get your stuff together. I'm a Capricorn. We're very strong boundaries people. Like all my friends who are Capricorns, we all very similar. We all have very strong boundaries. That's like, right here, we do not cross a certain thing. Like people know we limit access to us. Like people don't have our number. We're not the ones that share our numbers with random people. Like we will change our number in a hot second because we're like, oh no, too many people have it. Oh God, no. Like I've already let people know if they give somebody my number, they will end up probably getting blocked from accessing me. It's that deep.
Yes.
Because you have to protect your space. And in this world, we're constantly thinking about other people's comfort over ours. And it's not sainthood. Like we don't get sainthood by being like, well, as long as they're comfortable, I'm fine. No. Are you comfortable? Like in your skin, in your body, in your days that you're walking through this world, your comfort also matters. It's not just about everybody else's.
I think too, when I look at you, when I witness your work, and again, I've just been so deep into your book lately, it's brilliant. I also think how important it is to protect our peace so that we can do the work that we're here to do. And, it's like, I am certainly not for everybody. I am so not for everybody. I'm very clear about that. I'm cool with it. But I'm not going to try and go convince other people who are like, I hate her, she's annoying or whatever. I'm like, good. There's 7 billion people on the planet. Go find somebody else. But protecting your peace with boundaries is a way that we can be our most loving selves and do the most creative and inspiring and somewhat audacious work that we're here to do.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point about you not being for everybody. Yeah. If you're for everybody, you're for nothing. Like, let's just be clear. If everybody on this planet loved you, that means you are saying nothing of note. If everybody on this planet is like, I love Marie, that means nobody's really deeply connecting with you. Because when you are a human being who is fully formed, who has preferences, opinions, boundaries, you will repel certain people and you will attract certain people. Some people will hate you and then some people will love you deeply. You need both. If you're the person who's just middle of the lane and everyone's just like, I think they're nice, they're cool, you're making no imprint on anybody. So if you are somebody who exists in the world and you don't have any enemies, you're probably doing nothing. It probably means you also have no real fans. Like it also means you have no real friends because you haven't cultivated deep enough relationship. If you are living in this world authentically, you will run afoul to somebody just because you are so strong on one piece that somebody who's opposite of that would not like it. But it's okay to be that person. Like you don't like everybody, so everybody can't like you. And also, who has time to like everybody? Some people are trash.
That's why I love you so much. Okay. Before I get to probably the most important question, because it's a personal question and it's completely selfish, is there anything else about the book, about the Fear Fighters Manual that you want to share with the audience before we go on to other things?
Yes. When I was writing this book, I realized that it was the book that I needed when I was afraid to call myself a writer, because I didn't call myself a writer until 2012. And I'd been blogging at that point for 9 years because I was afraid of what it meant, like what that title meant, because it felt so big. I was like, Toni Morrison's a writer. Like, that's a writer. You don't get to call yourself the same thing Toni Morrison is. And what I didn't realize was that it's because I hadn't seen the writer that was like me, that was writing about the world and the way she saw it. I didn't go to school for writing or creative writing. I went to school for psychology and I was just writing this blog. So that fear of calling myself a writer was also like, what does that look like? Like, how do I make money as a writer if I'm not writing for the New York Times or writing fiction novels? But I realized that it was a title that I needed for myself, even though I didn't see the example. So I became that example that I needed. So this is the book that I needed when I was afraid to call myself a writer. Like, if I had this book, I'd been like, yes, you're a writer, way earlier. And I was hoping that somebody would read my book. Like, my real goal for this book is that somebody will read it it will change something about something that they do and bring something good to their life. And it's already happened. It's already happened. My last call with my book team in 2020, Jesus. My last call, I was on with my editor and we finished all the different logistics thing. And she said, I have to tell you this thing. She's like, I haven't told anybody but like one other person. So you're the second person I'm telling. But your book has changed my life. And I was like, really? She said, yes. When she was editing my book, after I got my first draft, my Ask for More chapter, she had a note in it on the side that said, when I finished editing this chapter, I asked my boss for a raise. And I was like, oh my God. So as I'm going through my edits, I see her note and it instantly made me smile. She said, remember that? I was like, yeah, I remember that note. She's like, okay. She said, well, I actually kept on asking him for that raise. He kept on saying, you know what, give me a couple of months. We'll revisit this conversation. She said, well, I just got promoted to editorial director. So not only did I get the raise, I got a promotion. And now my assistant is also going to be an editor. She's been promoted too because now I'm editorial director. And she was like, it's because of your book. And I was on that call like, she said, your book has changed my life. Your book made me do this thing I would have never done because I just sit quiet and I just do my work. She said, but you compelled me to ask for this raise and I got beyond the raise. I got the promotion and the raise. So now she's editorial director of Penguin Life, Meg Leader. And I was like, that is the dream. That is the dream. That right there makes this book and everything they went to writing it in my experience. That is the perfect result that I want. That is what I want to happen in people's lives. I want them to read this thing, to have this manual as a guide, as like a, you got this, the verbal, you got this in the moments when they need it. I wanted to convict them to know that they can actually get the thing that they want, that they're afraid to ask for. And so, yeah, I'm already so proud of this book because of that.
You should be. You should be. And I will underwrite, underscore, hold up that intention. And like I said, in my heart, we're recording this way before your book is available to the public. And my gut tells me there are going to be millions of lives touched by this, Lovey, and millions of outcomes like that. So much joy and courage and wealth and expansion is going to happen for people because you, my love, put down the genius that is Lovey into these incredible words. So funny, so many gems, so original. Again, I could not love it more. I got into Jersey Marie wanting to smack it, like do all the things to it like we do when we love something so much and we want to hold it.
Oh, thank you so much, friend.
You're welcome. And by the way, thank you, because when I was on book tour and you and I got to hang out just for a little bit in Chicago, it was really sweet because I had admired you and appreciated you from afar. And it was just so nice to be able to spend a little time together in person before the world did what it did.
Shut down.
So my final question, which I did text you about a little bit, but I want to ask you because you talk a lot about Jollof in the book. And for one who has not experienced it yet, which there may be folks, we got folks from 195 countries around the world, they may not have experienced it yet. And I am a food lover. I love food. I love to eat. I love to break bread with people. Is it just whack and not anything one should do trying to follow a recipe? Because again, we're still in the global pandemic. Where I am right now, there is not a Nigerian restaurant that is close by. I may not be able to get to one until I get to New York City. So tell us. I want to hear about it. I want to hear your recommendations. I want the download.
Yes. Okay. So for those who don't know, jollof rice is West Africa's premier rice. It's our tomato-based rice. Most cultures actually have their own standard rice. Like, there is Spanish rice, there is jambalaya, there is Chinese fried rice. Jollof rice is our rice, and it is tomato-based. It is delicious. It is at every party, every event. West Africans are obsessed with jollof rice.
And the pronunciation, is it jollof or just jollof?
Some people say jollof, but it's jollof, really. We say jollof.
Jollof. Okay,
Yep.
Awesome. Please keep going. Okay,
Yes.
So what are some of the ingredients? Tomatoes.
So it's like you take All right. To make jollof rice, being tomato based, you blend tomatoes with onions and bell pepper. You can put garlic in there. You put chicken bouillon cubes, and then if you want like chicken in there, because some people can do vegetarian too, you can actually use some of the chicken stock in the rice. You cook that rice together. Some people will actually bake it. So sometimes my mom will bake her jollof rice, so it like all of the flavors just come in. And then if you're going to a party, there's a specific type of pot that they use to make jollof rice. If you're going to like a party or like if it's catered, that gives an extra smoky flavor to it because of the way it's just prepared. That adds this extra to it. For my wedding, it was so important for me to have the perfect jollof rice that I flew in a chef from New York City.
Yes.
His name is God Shelter. He runs a food truck called Divine Flavored Catering. And hands down, outside of like my mom's jollof rice, God Shelter's jollof rice is everything. I flew him in to cater my wedding because it was that important for the jollof to be on point. It's the perfect flavors. And if the jollof is not good, people remember that. Okay? So I have 3 recommendations. If you are in LA, there's a restaurant called Veronica's Kitchen. That's amazing. If you are in New York, go for Divine Flavored Catering. And they usually have their food trucks sitting outside of the Nigerian embassy. Great. If you are in Chicago, you can go to Simi's restaurant. But there's actually recipes that you should follow. And yes, you can follow recipes. You know, older African moms, they don't follow a recipe anymore. And when you ask them for a recipe, they send you off, basically. They're just like, just sprinkle this. And you're just like, you're not just going to give me the actual. It's like the ancestors give them the exact recipe whenever they're cooking it. But in the meantime, there are actual Nigerian chefs who have blogs. There's one called Nigerian Lazy Chef. Her blog, her blog is Nigerian Lazy Chef. She has recipes for like how to cook Nigerian food. And I think she has a jollof rice recipe. Check it out. I've seen a few of the New York Times recipes for jollof rice. And I've been like, I don't really know. I don't know. Maybe one day I should test their recipe just to try, like to see if they'll actually come close. But I don't know. You need to go to a Nigerian person or a Ghanaian person to get a proper jollof rice recipe. Otherwise, it is not valid.
I like it. Okay, so this is going to be my next assignment, and I thank you for the reco in New York City because when I go back, I know exactly where I'm going.
They're amazing. They will deliver it to your hotel if you even want. In fact, text me when you're going to New York and you're like, I want some jollof. I will arrange it for jollof and plantains to be delivered to wherever you are as a gift to you. I got you. So you text me whenever you're in New York.
I adore you. Lovey, thank you so much. Thank you for this incredible gift. Everybody, if you haven't gotten the message yet, you need to get the message from me. I know our audience, we love books, and you need to not only get a copy for yourself, but you need to get a copy for your friends, anyone that you love, who you want to see them reach for their biggest dreams. Lovey Ajayi Jones, I adore you. I am so excited for this book. I'm so excited for the continuation of your body of work. I'm excited for you as a human being, and I am just honored to know you. So thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, for inviting me to be on Marie TV. I think you're amazing. Like how you show up in this world is so important. And as a thought leader, like you're blueprints, right? You've set maps that we didn't even realize we needed. And I deeply appreciate your work and I appreciate your voice. And thank you for your sisterhood and having me on. And when you text me about this book, like it literally was like, yo, this is dope. This is so dope that it connected with you on such a level. And that somebody as prominent as you, this far in your career, still finds value in this book lets me know I did something amazing. So that affirmation is deeply appreciated. And words of affirmation is my number 1 love language, just so you know.
I did not. You know what? Yeah. That's that witchy part in me. My friends laugh at me because they're like, how do you know things sometimes? And I literally felt like spirit or soul come over me and said, you have to text Lovey immediately. I literally put it down. You deserve all the praise and more. Again, I really cannot emphasize enough what a unique powerful, laugh out loud, moving, deeply soulful piece of work this is, and how excited I am for the world to read it. So you and I need to hang out again when the world gets a little bit safer. For everybody watching, we really thank you and love you. I'll see you soon, love. Wasn't that awesome? So as usual, Lovey and I would love to hear from you. I'm really curious. What's the biggest aha or insight that you are taking away from this conversation? And most important, how can you put it into action in your life starting right now? Now, as always, we've got some great conversations happening over at the magical land of marieforleo.com. So if you want to leave a comment, come on over there and leave a comment now. And while you're hanging out, if you're not yet subscribed to our email list, do it. Become an MF Insider. Every single week, I send loving, encouraging, and motivating emails to keep you inspired and on track. Until next time, stay on your game and keep going for your dreams, because the world really does need that very special gift that only you have. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Hey, you having trouble bringing your dreams to life? Well, guess what? The problem isn't you. It's not that you're not hardworking or intelligent or deserving. It's that you haven't yet installed the one key belief that will change it all. Everything is Figureoutable. It's my new book. You can order it now at everythingisfigureoutable.com.